My wife's work emergency was Vegas with my ex. The notification popped up on my laptop at 2:47 a.m. while I was debugging a particularly stubborn piece of code. Instagram, of all things. I don't even use it much, but my phone was charging across the room and the desktop version was logged in from some forgotten browsing session. At Jessica_travels tagged at Sarah_M_winters in a photo. My stomach dropped before my brain even processed why. Sarah was supposed to be in Minneapolis right now, presenting quarterly reports to the Midwest regional team. Emergency trip, she'd said. Barely had time to pack, kissing me goodbye at 6 a.m. Wednesday morning with that stressed look she got when work demanded too much. The photo loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, like the universe wanted to drag out the moment before my 8-year marriage imploded. There was my wife Sarah, martini in hand, designer dress I'd never seen before, laughing at a rooftop bar with the Vegas Strip glittering behind her. And there, arm draped around Sarah's shoulders like they were best friends, was Jessica Chin. My ex-girlfriend from college. The woman who'd made my life hell for 2 years before I finally got the courage to leave her manipulative ass. I screenshotted it immediately, muscle memory from years of debugging taking over. Document everything. Verify the evidence. My hands were shaking as I expanded the image, noting every detail. The timestamp, 11:23 p.m., yesterday. The location tagged, Sky Bar Las Vegas. Sarah's wedding ring nowhere to be seen. The caption made it worse, Girls Trip Part 2. Vegas baby. Cocktail glass sparkles at Sarah_M_winters knows how to party. Hashtag what happens in Vegas, hashtag besties reunited. Part 2. When was Part 1? I scrolled through Jessica's recent posts, each image hitting like a physical blow. There was Sarah again, 3 weeks ago, at what looked like a wine bar downtown. Sarah laughing at some trendy restaurant I didn't recognize, posted 2 weeks back. Sarah and Jessica at a spa, dated just last weekend when Sarah claimed she was having a quiet girl's day with her coworker Lisa. My chest felt tight. I grabbed my phone and scrolled to our text thread. Sarah's last message, sent at 4:30 p.m., long day of presentations. Heading to dinner with the team then early to bed. Love you red heart. I checked the timestamp on Jessica's Vegas photo again. Posted 3 hours after Sarah's text about going to bed early. The really sick part. I'd spent yesterday evening researching weekend getaway ideas for our 9th anniversary next month. I'd bookmarked a cabin in Vermont, thinking she'd love the fall foliage. While I was planning our future, she was living it up in Vegas with the woman who'd spent 2 years telling me I was worthless, that no one would ever love me the way she did, that I was lucky she put up with my boring, software engineer lifestyle. The same woman who tried to sabotage my relationship with Sarah when we first started dating 8 years ago. Who'd shown up at our engagement party uninvited, claiming she needed closure. Who'd called Sarah behind my back during our wedding planning, feeding her doubts about whether I was really ready for commitment. I thought Sarah had seen through Jessica's manipulation back then. Apparently, I was wrong. My coffee had gone cold hours ago, but I took a sip anyway, the bitter taste matching my mood. The code on my screen blurred as I stared at it, my mind racing through everything I thought I knew about my marriage. How long had they been talking? How long had Sarah been lying? And what the hell was I going to do about it? I couldn't stop myself from diving deeper into Jessica's social media. What I found made my blood run cold. The photos went back months. Sarah at Jessica's apartment in February, I remembered that night. Sarah had said she was working late on the Morrison account. There they were in March at some upscale cocktail lounge, Sarah wearing the black dress she claimed was for a client dinner. April showed them at a weekend farmer's market while Sarah had told me she was visiting her sister in Portland. But it was the comments that really twisted the knife. Jessica's friends responding with things like, so glad you two reconnected, and Sarah's so much fun, can't believe she was hiding from us for so long. One comment from someone named at MikeyChin94, probably Jessica's brother, really got to me, about time Sarah realized what she was missing. Some people aren't meant for suburban life faced with tears of joy. Sarah had liked that comment. I opened a new browser tab and checked our joint credit card account, something I rarely did since we'd always trusted each other completely. The recent charges told a story I wasn't prepared for. March 15th, $347 at Nobu downtown, the night she claimed to work late. March 22nd, $89 at SoulCycle, Sarah hated spin classes, always said they were pretentious. April 8th, $156 at Sephora, she'd been wearing different makeup lately, more dramatic. April 12th, $234 at Nordstrom, probably the dress from the Vegas photos. May 3rd, $445 at some spa I'd never heard of, her girls' day with Lisa. The pattern was clear once I knew what to look for. Sarah had been living a double life, and I'd been paying for it. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah, miss you baby. These presentations are brutal but should wrap up tomorrow afternoon. Can't wait to come home to you. Red heart. The casual lie made me nauseous. I could literally see her in Vegas right now, probably planning whatever tonight would bring. I switched back to Instagram and checked Jessica's story. New posts from an hour ago, pre-gaming shots in what looked like a hotel suite. Sarah in the background, touching up her lipstick in the mirror. Then I saw something that made my hands shake with rage. A quick video Jessica had posted and deleted, but I'd caught it in time to screen record. Sarah, clearly tipsy, saying something that came through despite the bar noise, God, Jake would have a heart attack if he could see me now. Mr. Responsible would probably make me a spreadsheet for how to have fun properly. Jessica's laugh in response, babe, you've been playing house long enough. Time to remember who you really are. The video cut off, but the damage was done. My wife of 8 years, the woman I'd trusted with everything, was mocking me to my psychotic ex-girlfriend while spending our money on a lie. I looked around our living room, the home we bought together, the life we built. The wedding photos on the mantle, Sarah's law school diploma next to my framed coding certifications, the couch where we'd spent countless nights planning our future. It all felt like a stage set now, props in some elaborate performance I hadn't realized I was part of. My laptop pinged with another Instagram notification. Jessica had tagged Sarah in a new post, nights just getting started. Fire fire fire. I closed the laptop and sat in the darkness, listening to the house settle around me. Tomorrow, Sarah would come home with stories about Minneapolis, probably with some small gift to sell the lie. She'd kiss me hello and ask about my week, and if I hadn't seen those photos, I'd have believed every word. The question wasn't what Sarah was doing in Vegas anymore. The question was what I was going to do about it. I didn't sleep. Instead, I did what I do best, I gathered data. By 6 a.m., I had 3 years of credit card statements printed and spread across our dining room table. The pattern was even worse than I'd initially thought. The expensive dinners, shopping trips, and work events that didn't align with Sarah's actual work calendar went back to January of last year. Not months, over a year of lies. But the real gut punch came when I cross-referenced the dates with my own calendar. March 15th, when Sarah was at Nobu with Jessica. That was the night I'd worked until 2 a.m. fixing a critical bug for our biggest client, then came home to find Sarah asleep with a half-eaten container of Thai takeout on her nightstand. She played the part of the understanding wife perfectly, even leaving me a sweet note about how proud she was of my dedication. April 8th, the Sephora charge. That was right after I'd mentioned maybe starting to try for kids soon. She'd seemed distant that week, and now I knew why. She was too busy getting makeup tutorials from my manipulative ex to discuss our future family. The coffee maker gurgled to life on its timer, the sound unnaturally loud in the quiet house. I'd always loved Saturday mornings with Sarah. She'd make her terrible pancakes while I fixed whatever she'd broken on her laptop during the week. Domestic and perfect and apparently a complete fucking lie. My phone buzzed with a text, "Good morning, handsome. Last day of conferences, then flying home. Should be back by 8 p.m. Want me to pick up some of that maple syrup you love from the Minneapolis airport?" 2 hearts. The casual cruelty of it almost impressed me. She was probably texting from bed in whatever Vegas hotel Jessica had booked, maybe even with Jessica reading over her shoulder, both of them laughing at how easily I could be managed. I screenshot the text and added it to the folder I'd created on my laptop, Sarah Evidence. Already had 43 items in there. Then I did something I hadn't done in years, I called in sick to work. I never called in sick. In 8 years at the company, I'd used maybe 10 sick days total. But I needed today to think, to plan, and to figure out exactly how deep this betrayal went. I started with Jessica's social media, but this time I went back further. Way back. And there it was, buried in her Instagram from 18 months ago, a comment thread on some motivational quote about fighting for what you deserve. One of her friends had written, "Still thinking about what we talked about. Sometimes the best revenge is showing someone what they gave up." Jessica's response, "Trust me, I'm playing the long game. Sarah's starting to see the cracks in her perfect little life. Just need to be patient." The timestamp showed this was posted 2 days after Sarah and I had gotten back from what I thought was an amazing vacation in Costa Rica. We talked about renewing our vows for our 10th anniversary. Sarah had seemed so happy, so connected to me. Meanwhile, Jessica was apparently already working to destroy us. I kept scrolling and found the smoking gun in a post from last October. Jessica at some networking event for lawyers, Sarah's field. The caption read, "Amazing what you can accomplish when you know where people work. Reconnecting with old friends tonight." Clinking glasses. She'd hunted Sarah down. This wasn't some accidental reconnection or natural drift apart in our marriage. Jessica had deliberately targeted my wife, probably playing on whatever small doubts or stresses Sarah had been feeling, nurturing them into something bigger. My hands were steady as I screenshot everything. Whatever happened next, I was going to be methodical about it. Sarah thought she was playing games with Mr. Responsible. She had no idea what she'd started. I was deep into Jessica's Facebook archives when I found something that made me question everything I thought I knew about my marriage. A private message thread from 2 years ago that Jessica had somehow screenshot and posted in a Memories album, probably during one of her dramatic social media purges where she overshared everything. The messages were between Jessica and someone named SW, Sarah Winters. My wife. From March 2022, a full 6 months before I thought they'd reconnected. SW, I keep thinking about what you said at Emma's wedding. About settling versus choosing. Jessica, you called me, remember? At 1 a.m. crying about how you felt invisible in your own life. SW, Jake's a good man. He loves me. Jessica, good and love aren't the same as right, babe. When's the last time you felt truly alive with him? Not comfortable, not secure, alive. SW, that's not fair. Not everyone needs drama to feel fulfilled. Jessica, who said anything about drama? I'm talking about passion. Adventure. Being with someone who sees all of you, not just the version that fits their suburban fantasy. The timestamp showed this conversation happened the weekend I'd surprised Sarah with tickets to Hamilton for our anniversary. She'd seemed distracted during the show, checking her phone between acts. I thought she was worried about work. I scrolled through more screenshots, my coffee growing cold as the full scope of Jessica's manipulation revealed itself. She'd been psychological warfare expert, slowly planting seeds of doubt about our life together. Comments about how settled Sarah looked in our Christmas photos. Innocent questions about whether Sarah ever missed her adventurous single days. Links to articles about couples who'd grown apart after marriage. But what made me physically sick was finding Sarah's responses. Not resistance, engagement. Participation. From September 2022, Jake scheduled our weekend again. Farmer's market, meal prep, Netflix. I used to be spontaneous. I used to surprise myself. Jessica's response, you still can be. You just need the right influence. Face blowing a kiss. October 2022, Sarah, saw your pics from that rooftop party in Brooklyn. God, when did I become someone who's in bed by 10 p.m. on a Saturday? Jessica, whenever you're ready to remember who you were before you became Jake's wife, you know where to find me. The progression was methodical. Jessica slowly convincing Sarah that our stable, loving marriage was actually a prison. That my reliability was boring. That my love was suffocating rather than supportive. By December 2022, Sarah was actively complaining, Jake bought me a stand mixer for my birthday. A stand mixer. Because I mentioned wanting to bake more. He actually listened and thought about what would make me happy, and somehow that feels worse than if he'd forgotten entirely. Jessica, because it's not what you want, it's what the version of you he's created wants. There's a difference between being known and being categorized. I had to stop reading. The stand mixer was sitting on our kitchen counter right now. Sarah had made exactly 3 things with it, but she'd hugged me so tight when she opened it, said it was perfect, said I understood her better than anyone. All lies. Even her gratitude had been performance. My phone buzzed with another text from Minneapolis. Conferences are finally over. Jessica Chen randomly ended up at the same hotel. Crazy coincidence. We grabbed drinks and caught up. She says hi. Can't wait to tell you all about it tonight. Love you so much, baby red heart. The sheer audacity took my breath away. She wasn't even trying to hide Jessica anymore. She was introducing her back into our life gradually, probably planning some reunion where Jessica could work her poison directly into our marriage instead of from the shadows. I looked at our wedding photo on the mantel. Sarah's radiant smile, her hand in mine, promising to love and honor and forsake all others. Had any of it been real? Or had I been living with a stranger who'd simply played the role I'd wanted to see? My laptop chimed with a new email notification. My bank, confirming a wire transfer of $2,847 from our joint savings to Sarah's personal account. Timestamp, 43 minutes ago. Vegas was expensive, apparently. But not as expensive as this was about to get for both of them. I stared at that wire transfer notification until the numbers burned into my retinas. $2,847. From our house down payment fund. The money we'd been saving for 3 years to upgrade from our starter home when we were ready to have kids. She'd emptied it for Vegas with my ex-girlfriend. I called the bank, hands surprisingly steady as I navigated the automated system. This is Jake Winters. I need to put a freeze on any further transfers from our joint savings account ending in 4429. I can help with that, Mr. Winters. May I ask the reason for the freeze? Unauthorized transactions. My wife is currently spending our money while lying about her location. The customer service rep's practice sympathy made me want to throw the phone. I understand how concerning that must be. I've placed a temporary hold on the account. Any future transactions will require in-person verification with 2 forms of ID. Too little, too late, but it would prevent any more surprises. After I hung up, I opened our shared calendar app, another small betrayal waiting for me. Sarah had meticulously blocked out this week as Minneapolis conference, complete with fake hotel information and a fictional itinerary. The level of premeditation was staggering. But something else caught my attention. Next weekend was marked Jake's birthday, surprise day trip, with a little cake emoji. She'd been planning my birthday surprise while orchestrating this elaborate deception. The cognitive dissonance nearly broke me. My laptop pinged with a Facebook notification. Someone had tagged me in a post. My stomach dropped as I recognized the sender, Michael Chen, Jessica's younger brother. We'd been friends on social media for years, a leftover connection from college that I'd never bothered to remove. The post was a group photo from what looked like last night in Vegas. Jessica and Sarah front and center, but there were 4 other people I didn't recognize. The caption read, Epic Bachelor Party Weekend. Thanks to @Jessica_travels for bringing reinforcements. Bottle with popping cork slot machine. Bachelor party. My wife was at a bachelor party in Vegas. The comments were revealing in ways Mike probably hadn't intended. Dude, Sarah is wild. Jessica wasn't kidding about her. Best wing woman ever. She got Tommy 3 numbers at the blackjack table. Jake's wife. Bro, you're gonna get your sister killed. Face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy. That last comment had been deleted, but notifications are forever when you know how to look. Someone had realized they'd fucked up and tried to cover it, but I'd already screenshot everything. I clicked on Mike's profile and found more photos from the trip. Sarah doing shots with strangers. Sarah dancing on some club's bar. Sarah in a group photo with her arms around men I'd never seen before, her wedding ring noticeably absent in every single shot. But the worst was a video Mike had posted to his Instagram story 12 hours ago. Sarah, clearly drunk, laughing as she fed coins into a slot machine. Behind her, Jessica's voice, see. This is the Sarah I remember from college. Where's she been hiding? Sarah's response made my chest tight. She's been playing house with a man who thinks a wild Friday night is ordering Thai food instead of Chinese. The group erupted in laughter. Someone off camera, male voice I didn't recognize, said, well, what happens in Vegas? Sarah's giggle in response, stays in Vegas. Jake will never know his boring little wife has a wild side. More laughter. Jessica's voice again, unless she doesn't want to be his boring little wife anymore. The video cut off there, but I'd heard enough. I sat in our kitchen, surrounded by evidence of my wife's systematic betrayal, and realized I'd been mourning the wrong thing. I'd been devastated that Sarah was lying to me, cheating on me, mocking me. But the real gut punch was simpler. I'd been married to someone who fundamentally didn't respect me. Not just now, but maybe never. The woman feeding slot machines in Vegas wasn't some corrupted version of my wife, she was showing me who she'd always been underneath the performance. My phone buzzed. Another text from Sarah, flight delayed but should still be home by 9 p.m. Can't wait to see you. This trip made me realize how much I appreciate what we have. Red heart. I almost laughed at the audacity. Time to show Sarah exactly what she was about to lose. I spent the rest of Saturday doing something I never thought I'd do in my marriage, detective work. Real, methodical investigation into the woman I'd shared a bed with for 8 years. The first call I made was to the Marriott Minneapolis downtown, the hotel Sarah had listed on our shared calendar as her conference location. My hands were steady as I dialed, but my heart was racing. Hi, I'm trying to reach my wife, Sarah Winters. She's staying with you for a conference this week, room, let me check. 1247. I kept my voice casual, concerned husband checking in. I'm sorry sir, but we don't have anyone by that name registered with us currently. Are you sure? She's with the Morrison Legal Group Conference. We're not hosting any legal conferences this week, sir. Would you like me to check if she was registered for a different date? I thanked them and hung up. Strike 1 for Sarah's fictional Minneapolis trip. Next, I called her office. Saturday afternoon meant I'd get the voicemail system, but I could check the company directory for conference schedules. After navigating through the automated options, I found what I was looking for: Morrison Legal Group calendar of events. No Minneapolis conference. No regional meetings. Nothing scheduled for this week at all. Strike 2. For strike 3, I did something that felt like a violation but was apparently necessary. I logged into Sarah's laptop. She'd never hidden her password from me. Winters 2015, the year we got married. Another small irony in a day full of them. Her browser history was a roadmap of deception. Flight confirmations to Las Vegas, not Minneapolis. Hotel bookings at the Cosmopolitan. Online shopping for Vegas outfits and searches for Best Nightclubs Las Vegas 2024. She'd planned this trip meticulously, right down to researching which fake conference she'd claimed to attend. But buried in her search history was something that made my blood run cold: Nevada divorce laws, searched 3 weeks ago. Followed by equitable distribution community property and alimony calculator. My wife hadn't just been planning a Vegas getaway. She'd been planning our divorce. I screenshotted everything, my software engineer brain automatically organizing evidence into folders. Then I dug deeper into her email, looking for correspondence with Jessica. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. An email thread from last month with the subject line, Operation Freedom. Jesus Christ, they'd actually named their conspiracy. Jessica's messages read like a manipulation playbook. Remember, you need documented evidence of incompatibility. Save screenshots of every boring text he sends, every time he chooses Netflix over going out. We'll need proof that you tried to make it work but he was holding you back from personal growth. Sarah's response: I feel guilty about the money though. The Vegas fund is supposed to be for our anniversary trip next month. Jessica, babe, think of it as an investment in your future happiness. Besides, he'd probably just take you somewhere predictable anyway. Vermont bed and breakfast. Please. You deserve better than his small-town dreams. The cruelty was surgical. Jessica had identified exactly how to weaponize Sarah's doubts about our quiet life together. But what made it unforgivable was Sarah's next email. You're right. I've been settling for comfortable instead of demanding extraordinary. Jake's a good man, but good isn't enough anymore. I need to remember what it feels like to be desired, not just loved. I had to stop reading. The distinction between being desired and being loved was going to haunt me. Had I been so focused on building a stable life that I'd forgotten to make Sarah feel wanted? Or was this just convenient rationalization for what she'd already decided to do? My phone rang. Sarah's contact photo, us at last year's Christmas party, both grinning at the camera, filled the screen. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, her message played. Hey baby, I know you're probably working on that new project, but I wanted to hear your voice. Vegas is. I mean, Minneapolis is gorgeous, but I miss home. Miss you. Call me back when you get this. Even in her fake voicemail, she couldn't keep her lies straight. I opened my laptop and started typing an email to my divorce attorney friend from college. Tom Martinez had handled my neighbor's messy separation last year, and he told me then to call if I ever needed anything. Never thought I'd need anything. The subject line was simple: need legal advice, urgent. The email took me 20 minutes to write. Concise, factual, no emotion. Just the timeline of Sarah's deception and my request for a Monday morning consultation. After I hit send, I sat back and looked around our living room one more time. In 12 hours, Sarah would walk through that front door with her luggage and her lies, probably bearing gifts from Minneapolis she'd actually bought in Vegas. She'd kiss me hello and spin elaborate stories about conference presentations and networking dinners while Jessica's laughter echoed in her memory. But this time, I'd be ready for the performance. The front door opened at 9:17 p.m. I was sitting in my usual spot on the couch, laptop open, pretending to work on code while actually watching the doorway like a predator waiting for prey. Jake. I'm home. Sarah's voice carried that particular exhausted but happy tone she used after successful work trips. She'd practiced this performance for 5 days straight. I looked up as she wheeled her suitcase into the living room, looking perfectly put together despite her grueling conference schedule. Her makeup was fresh, her hair styled in a way I'd never seen before, beachy waves that definitely hadn't come from Minneapolis meeting rooms. Hey babe. I stood and walked over, accepting her kiss on the cheek. She smelled like expensive perfume and something else, maybe the lingering scent of whatever Vegas hotel she'd actually been staying in. How was the flight? Delayed forever, then bumpy as hell. But I'm glad to be home. She was already moving toward the kitchen, chattering away. Minneapolis was actually gorgeous this time of year. Way warmer than I expected. The hotel had this amazing rooftop bar overlooking the river. I followed her, noting how easily the lies flowed. Sounds nice. How did the presentations go? Better than expected. The Midwest team loved our quarterly projections. Oh, and you'll never guess who I ran into at the hotel bar. She paused dramatically while opening the refrigerator. Jessica Chen. Can you believe it? Total coincidence. There it was. The setup for Jessica's reintroduction into our lives. My wife was positioning her co-conspirator as a chance encounter rather than the architect of our marriage's destruction. Jessica. Really? I kept my voice neutral, curious. What was she doing in Minneapolis? Some marketing conference for her firm. We grabbed drinks and caught up. She's actually doing really well. Still single, but dating someone seriously now. Sarah pulled out a bottle of wine, already reaching for glasses. She asked about you, actually. Said she's always felt bad about how things ended between you two in college. The audacity was breathtaking. Jessica felt bad about our toxic relationship, but not about systematically destroying my marriage. Sarah was either completely delusional or testing how gullible I actually was. That's unexpected. I watched her pour wine with steady hands. No guilt, no nervous energy. Just casual deception. Did you exchange numbers? Yeah, actually. I was thinking maybe we could all grab dinner sometime. I know it might be weird, but we're all adults now. And honestly, Jake, I think it might be good for closure. She seems like she's grown up a lot. I accepted the wine glass, marveling at how thoroughly Jessica had manipulated this entire scenario. Reintroduce herself gradually, play the reformed ex-girlfriend card, get back into our social circle where she could work her poison more effectively. Maybe, I said. I'd have to think about it. Sarah's smile flickered for just a moment. Of course. No pressure. I just think holding on to old grudges isn't healthy, you know. She moved to her suitcase, unzipping it with practiced efficiency. Oh. I almost forgot. I brought you something. She pulled out a small bag from what looked like a Minneapolis airport gift shop. That maple syrup you love, and some of those wild rice crackers you tried last time I was there for work. I took the bag, feeling the weight of props in what had become an elaborate theater production. The receipt inside was dated yesterday. While she was gambling and partying with strangers, she'd still managed to maintain her cover story. Thanks. That was thoughtful. Of course, baby. I missed you so much. She wrapped her arms around my waist, looking up at me with what I'd always thought was genuine affection. This trip made me realize how much I love coming home to you. I looked down at her face, the face I'd kissed goodnight for 8 years, the woman I'd planned to grow old with, and realized I was staring at a complete stranger. I love you too, I said, because the performance required it. But inside, I was already gone. That night, Sarah fell asleep easily beside me, one arm draped across my chest like nothing had changed. I lay there listening to her breathe, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone could compartmentalize betrayal so completely. She'd spent 5 days living a double life, and now she was sleeping like a baby next to the man she'd been planning to divorce. I waited until her breathing deepened into the rhythm I knew meant she was fully asleep, then carefully extracted myself from bed. Her phone was charging on the nightstand, face down like always. But tonight, that felt significant. I padded to the kitchen and made coffee, even though it was past midnight. My laptop was still open on the counter, and I had 3 new emails waiting. The first was from Tom Martinez. Jake, read your message. Can meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you're serious about this. Bring everything you've documented. Tom. The second was from my bank, confirming the freeze on our joint savings account. The third made my blood pressure spike. It was from Sarah's email account, an auto-forward I'd set up years ago when she kept missing important bills. She'd probably forgotten it existed. The message was from Jessica, sent 2 hours ago. Hope the homecoming performance went well. Remember what we discussed about timing. Give it 2 weeks to seem natural, then start the "we've been thinking about our conversation" script. David is getting suspicious about my phone usage, so might need to cool it on the texting for a few days. Vegas was perfect. You looked so free, babe. That's the real Sarah, not the suburban housewife act. Can't wait for phase 2. 2 hearts. Phase 2. There was a fucking phase 2. I screenshot the email and added it to my evidence folder, which now contained over 60 items. Then I did something that felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. I forwarded the email to Tom Martinez with a note: change of plans. This is bigger than I thought. My phone buzzed with an immediate response: Jesus Christ, Jake. She's planning this like a military operation. Can you come in at 8 a.m. instead? We need to move fast. I was typing my response when I heard footsteps on the stairs. Sarah appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair messy, wearing one of my old t-shirts. Baby. What are you doing up? It's almost 1 a.m. I minimized my laptop screen. Couldn't sleep. Work stuff running through my head. She patted over and wrapped her arms around me from behind, resting her chin on my shoulder. The same gesture she'd done thousands of times before, but now it felt like I was being embraced by a snake. The Peterson Project again. She kissed my neck softly. You work too hard. Yeah, probably. I could smell her shampoo, the same brand she'd used for years. Everything about her was familiar except the person using the props. Go back to bed. I'll be up soon. Come now, she murmured against my ear. It's my first night home. I missed sleeping next to my husband. The word husband felt like acid in the air between us. My husband. The man she was actively planning to divorce while researching Nevada's favorable laws. The boring, predictable safety net she was ready to discard for whatever adventure Jessica was promising. 5 more minutes, I said. Just need to finish this one thing. She squeezed me tighter. I love how dedicated you are. It's one of my favorite things about you. After she went back upstairs, I opened Jessica's email again and read it more carefully. David is getting suspicious about my phone usage. David, that had to be Jessica's fiancé. I vaguely remembered Sarah mentioning Jessica was engaged to some investment banker named David Walsh. I found his LinkedIn profile in 30 seconds. David Walsh, Senior Vice President at Morrison & Associates. He looked like the kind of guy who drove a BMW and played golf on Sundays. Clean-cut, successful, probably had no idea his fiancée was systematically destroying marriages for sport. An idea started forming in my mind. If Jessica was worried about David getting suspicious, maybe I wasn't the only one living with a liar. Maybe it was time David and I had a conversation. Monday morning came too soon and not soon enough. Sarah kissed me goodbye at 7:15 a.m., the same routine we'd followed for 8 years, except now I was watching her lips move and wondering what other lies they'd tell today. Late night at the office tonight, she said, adjusting her blazer in the hallway mirror. The Morrison team wants to debrief about the Minneapolis insights while they're still fresh. More fiction. I'd already confirmed with a quick call to Morrison Legal's main line that no debriefing sessions were scheduled. Sarah was getting sloppy, or maybe she just didn't think I'd ever bother to verify her stories. No problem. I might work late too, I said, which was actually true. Just not the kind of work she was imagining. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I was in motion. Tom Martinez's law office was in downtown Portland, a 20-minute drive that gave me time to rehearse what I was going to say. I'd printed everything: emails, photos, credit card statements, bank records. The evidence folder was now 3 inches thick. Tom's receptionist led me to his office at exactly 8 a.m. He looked older than I remembered from college, graying at the temples, but his handshake was firm and his eyes were sharp. Jake. Shit, man. I'm sorry you're going through this. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. But I have to say, in 15 years of practice, I've rarely seen someone come in this prepared. You sure you're not a lawyer? Software engineer. Same attention to detail, different application. I set the evidence folder on his desk. How bad is it? Tom opened the folder and started flipping through pages, his expression growing more serious with each document. After 5 minutes of silence, he looked up. It's bad, Jake. But not for you. He tapped the printed emails. Your wife and her friend documented their entire conspiracy. The premeditation alone would protect you in any divorce proceedings, but there's something else here. He pulled out Jessica's email about Phase 2 and the bank records showing Sarah's Vegas withdrawal. She's been systematically moving money and planning this for months. In Oregon, this kind of deliberate financial deception during marriage dissolution can result in her forfeiting her claim to marital assets. Tom leaned back in his chair. How much do you want to fight this? I want her to understand exactly what she's throwing away, I said. And I want Jessica to face consequences for destroying my marriage. Tom smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. Then we're going to have some fun. First thing, we freeze everything. All accounts, all credit cards, everything. Oregon is an equitable distribution state, but financial misconduct changes the equation entirely. He pulled out a legal pad and started writing. Second, we document her ongoing lies. I'm going to give you a recording app for your phone. Oregon is a one-party consent state, so any conversation you have with Sarah can be recorded legally. What about Jessica? That's where it gets interesting. Tom flipped to Jessica's emails again. She's engaged to David Walsh, right? David Walsh, who works for Morrison & Associates, the same firm where your wife is a partner. I nodded, not seeing the connection yet. Morrison & Associates has a strict ethics policy about personal relationships interfering with professional conduct. If Jessica has been using her connection to David to manipulate one of his colleagues, your wife, that's a massive conflict of interest. Tom was grinning now. David Walsh isn't just Jessica's fiancé. According to their website, he's also the head of their ethics committee. The pieces clicked into place. Jessica hadn't just been destroying my marriage, she'd been putting her fiancé's career at risk without him knowing it. How do we contact David without tipping off Jessica? Leave that to me, Tom said, reaching for his phone. I think Mr. Walsh deserves to know what his fiancé has been up to. Tom made the call to David Walsh while I sat in his office, listening to one side of what had to be the most surreal conversation of David's corporate career. Mr. Walsh. This is Tom Martinez from Martinez & Associates. I represent Jake Winters. Yes, I believe you know his wife Sarah through Morrison Legal. I'm afraid I have some information about your fiancée Jessica Chen that affects both our clients. There was a long pause while David responded. No sir, this isn't about a lawsuit. It's about documented communication between Ms. Chen and Mrs. Winters that suggests a conspiracy to defraud Mr. Winters of marital assets. Yes, I said conspiracy. Tom's eyebrows raised as David's voice became audible through the phone, not words, but tone. Shock, then anger, then what sounded like resignation. Could we meet this afternoon? I think you need to see the evidence. 2 p.m. works perfectly. And Mr. Walsh, you might want to check your fiancé's recent credit card statements. Particularly any charges from Las Vegas last weekend. When Tom hung up, he was smiling grimly. David Walsh just became our biggest ally. Apparently, Jessica told him she was visiting her sick grandmother in Sacramento last weekend. He even sent flowers to the hospital. The hospital that Jessica was never at, while she was busy coaching my wife through her Vegas bachelor party performance. The web of lies was getting so complex I was starting to feel sorry for everyone involved. Almost. There's something else, Tom continued, pulling up something on his computer. I ran a background check on Jessica Chen while you were driving here. She's been engaged twice before David. Both engagements ended badly, both men cited trust issues in their social media posts about the breakups. He turned his monitor so I could see Jessica's Facebook profile from 2019. A photo of her with a different man, different ring, same predatory smile. The caption read, some people are meant to settle down, others are meant to help people realize they're settling for less than they deserve. 2 hearts hashtag no regrets hashtag living my truth. She's done this before, I said, the pattern becoming clear. This isn't about Sarah specifically. Jessica gets off on destroying stable relationships. That's my read too. And here's the beautiful part, David Walsh has been paying for her lifestyle for 2 years. Apartment, car, credit cards, even funded her business consulting venture that appears to be entirely fictional. Tom pulled up more financial records. If David decides to press charges for fraud, Jessica's going to have bigger problems than just losing another fiancé. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, lunch meeting ran long but thinking of you. Can't wait to come home tonight and tell you about this exciting new project I'm working on. Love you. 2 hearts. I showed the text to Tom. New project. Think that's code for phase 2 of whatever Jessica has planned. Record everything, he said, handing me a small device. This pairs with your phone and backs up to a secure cloud server. Whatever Sarah tells you tonight about her exciting new project, we're going to want documentation. I pocketed the recorder, feeling like a spy in my own marriage. What happens at 2 p.m.? David Walsh gets to see exactly what kind of woman he's been supporting for 2 years. And then. Tom's smile turned sharp. Then we see how much Jessica enjoys being the target instead of the weapon. As I left Tom's office, one thought kept running through my mind. Sarah had no idea that her exciting new project was about to blow up in her face. But Jessica was about to find out that some games have consequences she never saw coming. At 2 p.m. sharp, I was back in Tom's office, but this time I wasn't alone. David Walsh sat across from Tom's desk, looking like he'd aged 5 years since morning. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his tie loosened, and there were printouts scattered in front of him that I recognized as Jessica's credit card statements. $17,000, David said quietly, not looking up from the papers. In 6 months. Restaurants I've never been to, hotels I've never stayed at, shopping sprees while she told me she was visiting friends. He finally raised his eyes to meet mine. Your wife wasn't Jessica's only project, Jake. She's been systematically lying to me while using my money to fund her. What would you call this? Hobby. Tom leaned forward. Mr. Walsh, show Jake what you found in Jessica's home office. David pulled out his phone and scrolled to a photo that made my stomach drop. It was Jessica's desk, but covered with what looked like surveillance materials. Printed Facebook photos of married couples, including several of Sarah and me from last Christmas. Post-it notes with writing I could barely make out, but one was clearly visible. Target, Sarah W., vulnerability, boredom with routine. There are 12 couples up there, David said, his voice hollow. 12. She has files on all of them. Screenshots of their social media, notes about their relationships, even what looks like success rates. He swiped to another photo. She's been doing this for years, Jake. We're not dealing with someone who just happened to reconnect with your wife. This is Jessica's actual hobby. I stared at the photos, recognizing some of the faces from our old college crowd. Emma and Marcus, who divorced suddenly last year after 15 years together. Ben and Christina, whose marriage had imploded when Christina suddenly decided she needed to find herself in Europe. All of them had known Jessica. All of them had trusted her as an old friend offering advice during rough patches. Jesus Christ, I whispered. She's like a serial killer, but for marriages. Tom was taking notes furiously. David, are you willing to testify about Jessica's financial fraud? Because combined with Jake's evidence of her manipulating Sarah, we're looking at a pattern that could interest the district attorney. More than willing. David's jaw was set in a way that reminded me he hadn't gotten to be a senior VP by being a pushover. I want her prosecuted for every penny she stole from me. And I want everyone to know what she's been doing to people. My phone buzzed with another text from Sarah. They got crazy but still excited to talk to you tonight. Jessica had some interesting thoughts about our conversation yesterday. Can't wait to share. Red heart. I showed the message to both men. David's laugh was bitter. Interesting thoughts. That's Jessica's specialty. She finds people's weak spots and convinces them those weaknesses are actually strengths being suppressed. He stood up, straightening his tie. I'm going home to change the locks. And Jake? When you're ready to confront your wife tonight, you should know that Jessica's planning to be there. What do you mean? I checked the GPS tracker on the car I've been paying for. Jessica's been parked outside your house since noon. David's smile was sharp as broken glass. I think she wants to be there for the big reveal of Phase 2. Whatever that means. Tom gathered the evidence files. Gentlemen, I think it's time we gave both these women exactly what they've been planning for. Outside the law office, David shook my hand. For what it's worth, Jake, I'm sorry about Sarah. But at least we found out who we were really living with before it was too late. As I drove home, I could see a silver Lexus parked 2 blocks from my house. Jessica's car, the one David had been paying for while she destroyed marriages for entertainment. Sarah thought tonight was going to be about her taking control of her life. She had no idea it was going to be about losing everything. I pulled into my driveway at 6:30 p.m., noting that Jessica's silver Lexus had moved closer, now parked just 3 houses down with a clear view of my front door. She wasn't even trying to be subtle anymore. Through my rearview mirror, I could see her silhouette in the driver's seat, phone pressed to her ear. Probably coordinating tonight's performance with Sarah. My hands were steady as I gathered my work bag and the small recording device Tom had given me. Whatever Sarah had planned for tonight, I was ready. The house smelled like Sarah's expensive candles and something cooking in the kitchen, a domestic scene that would have warmed my heart yesterday but now felt like set dressing for a play I didn't want to be in. Jake. Perfect timing. Sarah appeared from the kitchen wearing the black dress from the Vegas photos, the one I'd unknowingly paid for with our joint credit card. Her makeup was different too, more dramatic, like she was preparing for an audience. Which, apparently, she was. You look nice, I said, hanging my keys on the hook by the door. Special occasion? Actually, yes. She moved closer, her smile bright but somehow brittle. I've been thinking a lot since Minneapolis, and I realized we need to talk about some things. About us. About our future. Here we go. Phase 2 of Jessica's master plan, right on schedule. Okay. Should I be worried? I kept my tone light, curious rather than confrontational. The recorder in my pocket was already running. Not worried, exactly. But Jake, when I saw Jessica this weekend, it made me realize how much we've both changed since we got married. She gestured toward the living room. Can we sit? This is important. I followed her to our couch, the same couch where we'd planned our wedding 8 years ago, where we talked about having kids, where we dreamed about growing old together. Now it was going to be the stage for her scripted breakup speech. I love you, Sarah began, and the recording device captured every word. I need you to know that everything I'm about to say comes from a place of love. The classic opening line for relationship destruction. Jessica had trained her well. Sarah, you're scaring me a little. What's going on? I think we've grown apart. The words came out in a rush, like she'd rehearsed them. Not in a bad way, necessarily, but we want different things now. You're happy with our quiet life, our routines, our predictability. But I'm realizing that I need more. More what? Adventure. Spontaneity. Passion. She was warming to her theme now, probably remembering Jessica's coaching. When I was in Minneapolis, I felt like myself again for the first time in years. Not Jake's wife, not half of a couple, just Sarah. I nodded thoughtfully. You felt like yourself in Minneapolis. Yes. Exactly. And I think maybe we both settled. We were so focused on building something stable that we forgot to ask if it was what we actually wanted. My phone buzzed with a text. Sarah glanced at it automatically, and I saw her face change slightly. The message was from David Walsh, just confronted Jay. She's panicking. Claims she's at your house for moral support. Thought you should know she's more desperate than dangerous right now. Work emergency? Sarah asked, trying to sound casual. Something like that. I set the phone down, noting how her eyes tracked it. You were saying. About us settling. But Sarah's momentum had been broken by the interruption. She kept glancing at the front window, probably wondering why Jessica hadn't texted her back or given her the agreed-upon signal. Maybe we should table this conversation, she said suddenly. You seem distracted, and this deserves our full attention. No, I think we should finish it. I leaned forward, meeting her eyes. You're telling me that our marriage isn't enough for you anymore. That our life together feels like settling. I want to hear all of it. Sarah's phone buzzed. Then again. Then a third time in rapid succession. Her composure cracked slightly as she glanced at the screen. Sarah. Is everything okay? She looked up at me, and for the first time in days, I saw something genuine in her expression, fear. Jake, I think there's something you should know. Sarah's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Whatever messages she was receiving were clearly not part of tonight's script, and I could see her carefully rehearsed confidence crumbling in real time. What should I know? I asked, keeping my voice gentle despite the rage building in my chest. She glanced at her phone again, her face going pale. Jake, I haven't been completely honest with you about this week. About Minneapolis? There was no Minneapolis. The words came out barely above a whisper. I was in Vegas. With Jessica. I let the silence stretch, watching her fidget with her wedding ring, the ring that had been mysteriously absent from every Vegas photo. Finally, I spoke. Why? Because I needed space to think. About us. About what I wanted. She was talking faster now, the careful script abandoned. Jessica thought it would be good for me to get away, to remember who I used to be before. Before what? Before I became someone I don't recognize anymore. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. Jake, when's the last time we did something spontaneous? When's the last time you looked at me like you couldn't live without me instead of just comfortable? The accusation stung because it was designed to. Jessica had found the exact pressure point that would make me question myself, make me wonder if Sarah's betrayal was somehow my fault for being too stable, too reliable, too boring. So you lied to me for a week and spent $3,000 of our savings to party in Vegas. That was your solution to feeling unappreciated? Sarah's eyes widened. How did you know about the money? Bank notifications are wonderful things. I pulled out my phone and showed her the wire transfer alert. $3,000 from our house fund, Sarah. The money we've been saving for 3 years. Her phone buzzed again, and this time she couldn't ignore it. As she read the message, her face went from pale to gray. What's wrong? I asked, though I had a pretty good idea. David Walsh just broke up with Jessica. She looked up at me, and I saw the exact moment she realized how much trouble she was in. Jake, he knows about Vegas. He knows about everything. Everything like what? The plan. The emails. She stopped herself, but it was too late. The plan to divorce me. I pulled out my own phone and opened the screenshot of her search history. Nevada divorce laws, Sarah. Really? She stared at the screen, her mouth opening and closing like she was drowning. You went through my computer. I went through everything. The credit card statements showing months of lies. The emails with Jessica about Operation Freedom. The fake Minneapolis conference. All of it. I leaned back, amazed by how calm I felt. Did you really think I'd never find out? Sarah's phone rang. Jessica's contact photo filled the screen, a selfie of the two of them from last weekend that I now recognized was taken at some Vegas nightclub. Answer it, I said. I'd love to hear what Jessica thinks of Phase 2 now that her fiancé knows she's a serial marriage wrecker who's been stealing his money for 2 years. How do you know about? Sarah's question was cut off by her phone ringing again. Answer the phone, Sarah. Let's see what your life coach has to say now that her own life is imploding. With shaking hands, Sarah accepted the call and put it on speaker. Jessica's voice filled our living room, high-pitched and panicked. Sarah. Thank God. David froze all my accounts. He changed the locks. He's talking about pressing charges. We need to. Jessica stopped abruptly. Wait. Are you on speaker? Hello, Jessica, I said pleasantly. How's Phase 2 working out for you? The silence stretched for 10 long seconds before Jessica hung up. Sarah looked at me with something approaching terror. Jake, I can explain. No need, I said, standing up. Tom Martinez already explained everything. The color drained from Sarah's face when I mentioned Tom's name. You hired a lawyer. Friday morning. Right after I found the email where Jessica congratulated you on your homecoming performance. I watched Sarah's expression crumble as she realized how thoroughly exposed they were. Tom's been very thorough. Did you know Jessica's done this to 12 other couples? You're not special, Sarah. You're just her latest hobby. Sarah's hands were shaking now. That's not, she wouldn't. Check your phone. I'm sure David sent you the photos of Jessica's little war room by now. All those couples she's destroyed, all the notes about their vulnerabilities. Yours was labeled boredom with routine, in case you were wondering. As if on cue, Sarah's phone buzzed with an incoming photo message. She opened it reluctantly, and I watched her face change as she saw the evidence of Jessica's systematic manipulation. The desk covered with photos of married couples. The success rate charts. The clinical notes about relationship weak points. Oh God, she whispered. Jake, I didn't know. She said she just wanted to help me figure out what I wanted. What you wanted was a divorce. You researched Nevada law 3 weeks ago. I pulled up another screenshot on my phone. Right after you charged $700 at Victoria's Secret for your Vegas wardrobe. How long have you known? Since last Wednesday night, when you posted that photo from the Sky Bar. You know, the one where you're toasting your bestie reunion while texting me about going to bed early in Minneapolis. I stood up and walked to the window, noting that Jessica's silver Lexus was no longer parked on our street. Jessica ran, by the way. David's car isn't in her driveway anymore either. Sarah followed my gaze outside, then back to me. Where is she? Probably figuring out that destroying marriages isn't a sustainable business model when your funding source finds out what you're doing. I turned back to face her. The really pathetic part, Sarah, is that you threw away 8 years of marriage for someone who sees you as a game piece. My phone rang. Tom Martinez's name on the screen. Jake. We have a problem. Tom's voice was tense even through the speaker. Jessica's running. David's credit card showed charges at a gas station heading toward the interstate an hour ago. But that's not the big issue. What's the big issue? She cleaned out 3 joint accounts before David could freeze them. $42,000. And get this, some of it was Morrison and Associates escrow money that David had access to for client settlements. Sarah gasped audibly in the background. Tom continued, David's not just talking about pressing charges for personal fraud anymore. This is federal. She stole client funds from a law firm. FBI level federal. I looked at Sarah, who had gone completely white. Tom, what does that mean for Sarah? If the feds can prove Sarah knew about Jessica's financial crimes, she could be looking at conspiracy charges. Her emails about Operation Freedom and the coordinated deception, it's not looking good. Sarah grabbed my arm. Jake, I swear I didn't know about any stolen money. I thought David was just paying for her lifestyle, I had no idea. Tell it to the FBI, I said, pulling my arm free. They'll probably want to chat with you very soon. Tom's voice came through the phone again. Jake, you need to decide right now, is Sarah going to cooperate with the investigation, or is she going to go down with Jessica? Sarah stared at me for a long moment, then at her phone still buzzing with ignored calls from Jessica, then back at me. The woman I'd married 8 years ago was finally visible again, not the confident manipulator from tonight's performance, not the bored housewife Jessica had convinced her she was, but the person I'd fallen in love with who was now terrified and alone. I'll cooperate, she whispered. Jake, I'll tell them everything. About the emails, the planning, all of it. But I swear to you, I never knew about the stolen money. Tom's voice crackled through the phone. That's smart, Sarah. The FBI will want a full statement tomorrow morning. Jake, bring her to my office at 8 a.m. We'll coordinate with the federal prosecutors. After I hung up, Sarah collapsed back onto our couch, her face in her hands. How did this happen? How did I get here? You chose it, I said simply. Every lie, every betrayal, every dollar you spent, those were choices. Jessica didn't make them for you. But she made it seem so reasonable. Like I was being brave instead of selfish. Sarah looked up at me, mascara streaked down her cheeks. She said you were holding me back from my potential. And you believed her instead of talking to me. I sat back down, but kept distance between us. Sarah, if you were unhappy, if you felt stagnant or bored or unfulfilled, why didn't you just tell me? We could have fixed that. We could have traveled more, tried new things, shaken up our routine. Because I thought you'd judge me. You seemed so content with our life exactly as it was. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Jessica made me feel like wanting more, made me interesting instead of ungrateful. Jessica made you feel special while she destroyed your marriage for entertainment. There's a difference. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Former investment firm VP arrested in Las Vegas on federal fraud charges. The thumbnail photo showed Jessica in handcuffs outside a casino hotel, her designer outfit wrinkled, her confident smile finally gone. I showed Sarah the screen. $42,000 didn't get her very far. Sarah stared at the photo of her former best friend and life coach. She told me she was independently wealthy. That David was just for companionship, not support. She told you a lot of things. The question now is whether you're going to keep believing her lies or start dealing with reality. I stood up again, suddenly exhausted by the whole conversation. Reality is that our marriage is over, Sarah. Reality is that you're facing potential federal charges. Reality is that the woman you trusted to redesign your life is going to prison. Jake, please. Can we try counseling? Can we? No. The word came out harder than I'd intended, but I didn't soften it. You didn't just cheat on me or lie to me. You researched how to divorce me while planning to take half of everything we built together. You mocked me to strangers in Vegas while I was home planning your birthday surprise. There's no coming back from that level of betrayal. Sarah nodded slowly, tears falling steadily now. What happens to us? Tomorrow you talk to the FBI. Next week, you talk to my divorce attorney. After that, you figure out how to rebuild a life without Jessica's guidance or my support. I picked up my keys from the coffee table. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. Pack whatever you need from our bedroom, but don't touch anything else in this house. As I reached the front door, Sarah called after me, Jake. For what it's worth, I really did love you. That part was never a lie. I paused with my hand on the doorknob. The sad thing is, I believe you. But you loved the excitement of betraying me more. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new apartment, smaller than our old house, but actually mine, reading the final update on Jessica Chen's case. Federal fraud conviction, 8 years. Sarah's cooperation had kept her out of prison, but she'd lost her job at Morrison Legal and was working as a paralegal in Salem, trying to rebuild her reputation. Our divorce had been finalized last month. No alimony, minimal asset division thanks to her documented financial misconduct. She'd kept her car and her clothes. I'd kept everything else, including my ability to trust my own judgment. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, whose marriage Jessica had destroyed 2 years ago, saw the news about Jessica's sentencing. Wanted you to know that Marcus and I are in couples therapy. Turns out we both got played by her. Maybe there's hope for some of us. I smiled and typed back, good for you both. Some things are worth fighting to rebuild. But not everything. Not when the foundation was lies from the beginning. I closed my laptop and looked around my new living room. Quiet, predictable, boring by Jessica's standards. Perfect.